The Ottoman Empire was born out of nomadic and agricultural civilizations, relying on its self-sufficient small farmer economy. So it had many factors that hindered the birth of capitalism and transformation into a modern society within itself. This led to this ancient country having extremely slow development in early capitalism, and in the modern era it suffered successive defeats at the hands of enemies it had once scorned. It went from prosperity to decline, growing weak and feeble, and faced the dire prospect of being reduced to a Western colony. In the end, it was only through its dissolution, through its own collapse, that the modern Republic of Turkey could emerge. Therefore, the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire is certainly a piece of history well worth reflecting upon. So today, let's talk about this powerful empire that once stood for more than 600 years. The Turks are a nomadic tribe originating from Central Asia. In the mid-11th century, a large group of Turkic-speaking tribes began to migrate westward and invaded the Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, settling down in Anatolia, commonly referred to as Minor Asia. It is said that over 2 million Turks settled here at that time. The main population of the Byzantine Empire were Greeks who spoke Greek and followed Orthodox Christianity, while the Turks spoke Turkic languages and most tribes adhered to Islam. However, medieval Islam was much more tolerant compared to Christian faiths like Catholicism or Orthodoxy. The new Turkish rulers not only granted religious freedom to local people, but also abolished the strict land permit system of the Byzantine Empire. Thus, the various ethnic groups in Minor Asia were gradually assimilated by the Turks, both converting to a more tolerant Islam and becoming Turkic in language and culture. Among these settled Turkic tribes in Anatolia was the Seljuk tribe, which established the Seljuk Empire through military expansion from 1037 to 1194, capable of rivaling the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantines had to seek aid from Western European Catholic states to counter the Seljuks, leading to the famous Crusades in history. However, due to the blows inflicted by the Crusades, internal political struggles within the empire, and the rise of the Mongols, the Seljuk Empire only lasted less than 2 centuries before disintegrating amid domestic and foreign troubles. After its collapse, the Seljuk Empire fragmented into 10 small Turkish principalities. Among them was a prince named Osman, who with his extraordinary leadership skills quickly transformed the scattered Turks under him into an organized and fierce military force. He armed them with Islamic jihad ideology and recruited numerous holy warriors from other Islamic tribes. In 1300 AD, Osman declared himself sultan in the midst of widespread warfare, becoming Osman I and initiating a path of military expansion. The world map thus saw the emergence of the Ottoman Empire. Under the influence of Islam and jihad thought, the Ottoman Empire's expansion was incredibly swift, gradually nibbling away at Byzantine territories. In 1310's Battle of Bafian, Osman I personally led his faith warriors to defeat the Byzantine army. In 1317, the Ottoman army besieged Bursa for 9 years before conquering it. When Orhan ascended to the throne in 1326 at just 20 years old, this sultan was even more capable of warfare, taking less than a decade to conquer all of Minor Asia and crossing into Europe by 1354. While expanding his territory, Orhan also paid special attention to politics, establishing an effective administrative system that allowed the empire to stabilize newly conquered territories immediately. Over the next few decades, the Ottomans first annexed Bulgaria, then advanced into Albania, reaching as far as the Adriatic coast and almost completely controlling Byzantine's core region. In 1365, Murad I moved the Ottoman capital from Bursa in Asia to Edirne in Europe, beginning a shift of political center from Asia to Europe. On the 25th of September 1396, under Bayezid I's leadership, the Ottoman army defeated the Crusaders at Nicopolis on the Danube River, ending the last true crusade in European history. The victorious Ottomans then invaded Hungary with devastating consequences. By the end of the 14th century, except for Constantinople and parts of the Peloponnese Peninsula, the Ottomans had effectively controlled all of the Balkans. However, Bayezid I, known as Thunderbolt, was later defeated by another legendary figure in his twilight years, captured and nearly led to the fall of his empire, This person was Tamerlane, the feared Central Asian warlord. Fortunately for the Ottomans, Tamerlane died early, allowing them to recover their strength. Meanwhile, the Ming Empire also survived, leading to further Ottoman expansion. In 1444, Murad Tekin defeated a European coalition army led by Hungarians near Varna, killing the Hungarian king and archbishop, sweeping through Serbia and Bosnia. Then in 1453, the year that shocked and saddened everyone, Murad II, son Mehmed II, finally conquered Constantinople, completely extinguishing the Byzantine Empire. From then on, Constantinople became Istanbul, the capital of the Ottoman Empire, while Hagia Sophia turned into a mosque. After continuous development and expansion from 1300 to 1453, the Ottoman Empire gradually reached its peak. In 1512, Selim I ascended to the throne as Sultan, pushing the empire to another apex. During his 8-year reign, he first launched an eastern campaign against Persia, capturing Tabriz, the capital of the Safavid dynasty, and forcing it into submission. He then invaded Syria and Egypt, ending 4 centuries of Mamluk rule in Egypt and turning it into an Ottoman province. He also seized control from the Arab Abbasid Caliphate, its successor state, forcibly taking the title of Caliph for himself, thus becoming the supreme ruler of the entire Islamic world. He took on the heavy responsibility of defending the interests of the Islamic world. In March 1520, when Selim I died of illness, he left behind only one son, the man who would become famous in world history as the magnificent and heroic Suleiman, the Magnificent. Suleiman reigned for 46 years, and under his rule, the Ottoman Empire reached its zenith in politics, economy, military, and culture. His reign is therefore regarded as the golden age of the Ottoman Empire. Like his ancestors, Suleiman was also a conqueror. In Europe, he defeated King Louis II of Hungary at the Battle of Marseilles in 1526, bringing about the downfall of the Hungarian kingdom, and in 1541 he annexed central Hungary into Ottoman territory. In Asia, he fought a long conflict with the Persian Safavid dynasty, capturing Baghdad in 1534 and gaining control over Mesopotamia. In Africa, he allied with the famous pirate Barbarossa to dominate the eastern Mediterranean, turning Algeria, Tripoli, and other regions into Ottoman vassal states, while his powerful navy even threatened the southern coast of Italy. But Suleiman was not merely a conqueror, he was also a great lawgiver. At that time, the Ottoman Empire had a population of about 30 million, of whom 40% were non-sovereign Muslims. Although these non-sovereign Muslims had citizenship, they were not protected by Islamic law because they did not follow Islam. The inequality in legal status hindered economic development. To protect the lives, property, and faith of all his subjects, Suleiman, relying on prominent Ottoman jurists such as Ibn Saud, revised and codified old laws from the late 1520s to the early 1530s and promulgated a series of new legal codes, including the Kanun Twenaim, the General Code, the Egyptian Code, and the Suleimanic Code. These codes not only improved the empire's administrative structure and increased government efficiency, but also embodied principles of fairness and justice, to a certain extent, greatly easing ethnic and religious tensions within the empire. In addition, Suleiman attached great importance to science and technology, generously patronized the arts and culture, and commissioned the construction of numerous mosques, mausoleums, schools, public baths, and other buildings. During his reign, Ottoman architecture, poetry, science, and art all reached high levels of accomplishment, giving rise to famous figures such as the architect Mimar Sinan, the geographer Piri Reis, and the poet Baki. Suleiman deeply respected and cherished these eminent scholars, and he enjoyed close personal friendships with many of them. Of course, the age of Suleiman also had its share of drama. For those interested in this period, you might want to watch the Turkish television series Muhteşem Yüzyıl, The Magnificent Century. It is also worth mentioning that Suleiman himself was a highly accomplished poet, writing under the pen name Muhibi, meaning beloved, and he left behind a substantial body of work. Unfortunately, although Suleiman had 8 sons in total, only one was still alive when he died. That sole surviving son Selim II was a corpulent drunkard known as Selim the Drunkard or Selim the Sot. For this reason, the death of Suleiman in 1566 is often marked as the beginning of the Ottoman Empire's decline. Since the time of Mehmed II, every Ottoman sultan upon ascending the throne would kill his own brothers to prevent internal dynastic strife. The most atrocious of such killings occurred in July 1595, when Mehmed III ascended and immediately put to death his 19 brothers. One can only wonder how he could bring himself to do it. However, after Mehmed III's second death, an unexpected situation arose. He left only two sons, both minors. If the elder brother died before producing a male heir after his accession, the dynasty would face extinction. So his brother Ahmed I, heeding the advice of his ministers, chose to place the younger brother under house arrest rather than execute him. Later, that brother, Mustafa, did indeed succeed to the throne after Ahmed's death. From then on, the practice of dealing with royal brothers was replaced by confinement instead of execution. But those princes who were imprisoned for years in the palace, cut off from the outside world, often became physically and mentally weak, with severely abnormal psychological development. Once they took the throne, they not only lacked any experience in state affairs, but also tended to indulge in hedonistic excess, neglecting their duties, and living in dissipation. Consequently, among the 17 sultans who ruled the Ottoman Empire during the 220-odd years from 1566 to 1789, most were mediocre, incompetent, dissolute, and tyrannical, some even suffering from intellectual deficiencies. This led to political corruption, economic collapse, constant infighting among the ruling elite, and the gradual disintegration of the local administrative system, with serious regional fragmentation. Peasants and conquered peoples rose in rebellion time and again. In 1591, peasants in Diyarbakir launched an armed uprising. In 1599, another peasant revolt broke out in central Anatolia. In 1608, a revolt led by Christian clergy erupted in Syria and Lebanon. In 1616, Arab tribes in the southern Iraqi desert rose up. And at the same time, the Greeks in the Balkans continually fought for national independence. Although these rebels were basically suppressed with bloodshed, the Ottoman Empire was gradually worn down in the process. It was not until 1656 that the situation began to improve, when Turhan, the mother of the de facto ruler Mehmed IV, appointed Mehmed Poçhiti as Grand Vizier, equivalent to Prime Minister. Over the following decades, several Grand Viziers from the Kopur family took office successively. They were not only loyal to the empire, but also well-trained and straightforward, diligently rectifying the situation with swift and decisive action, striking against corruption, suppressing rebellions, and reforming the military. This is what allowed the empire to regain some vitality temporarily, overcoming severe social crises. However, these bureaucrats' efforts were merely treating symptoms rather than addressing the root cause. The Ottoman Empire's political and economic systems had become incredibly corrupt by then, while Europe was rapidly advancing into a capitalist phase. Thus, the Ottoman Empire gradually fell behind Europe, suffering repeated defeats in foreign wars. In 1683, the Ottoman Empire lost to the Austrian Habsburgs in the Battle of Vienna. Following that, they suffered successive defeats during the Great Turkish War and finally signed the Treaty of Karlowitz in 1699, ceding vast territories. Then in the 18th century, rising Russia also invaded the Ottomans, putting them between a rock and a hard place, with Austria and Russia attacking from both sides. Fortunately, even a dying camel is bigger than a horse. During Ahmed III's reign 1718 to 1730, the Ottoman Empire not only survived but saw a brief flourishing of art and court culture known as the Tulip era. However, this short period of prosperity was soon ended by continuous uprisings. In the 1790s, Selim III was influenced by the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars, initiating an Ottoman self-strengthening movement, akin to China's own self-strengthening efforts. Like in China, it failed because reforms only modernized military, without touching the system itself. The same fate befell Mahmud II as well. Establishing Western-style armies, opening schools, and promoting modern lifestyles did not address systemic issues. Thus, these reforms were ultimately ineffective. Thankfully, unlike the Qing Empire's superficial efforts, Ottoman reforms continued to evolve gradually. From 1839 to 1876, a series of reforms known as Tanzimat reorganization aimed at fully transitioning from Islamic systems to Western ones. Laws were issued allowing non-Muslims to hold office for the first time and declaring equality before the law. Schools opened, printing presses hummed, and even laws stated that the state belonged not to the Sultan but to all citizens. Court officials donned French-style coats and top hats, while streets sported French signs and newspapers carried phrases about a constitutional freedom. Yet conservative Old World elements remained vocal in mosques, denouncing Western influence as demonic and stirring up opposition against it. On May 6, 1876, the Salonika incident shocked everyone, when two consuls were killed, straining relations between the Ottoman Empire and European nations to breaking point. Reformists' dissatisfaction reached its peak, leading to large-scale protests by students in Istanbul on May 10. Faced with an uncontrollable situation, conservative Sultan Abdul Aziz abdicated under pressure from ministers on May 30. On the 31st of August, Abdedlamid II ascended the throne as a supposed reformist, but turned out to be a dictator who pretended to support constitutionalism and parliamentarism initially before declaring martial law when Russian forces approached the Balkans. He ruled for 30 years using spies and propaganda to maintain control, earning him the nickname Red Sultan. Reformists did not give up. They secretly formed the Young Turks Party in cafes, waiting for opportunities. In 1908, this party staged a coup forcing the Sultan to restore the constitution and parliament, ushering in the second constitutional era. However, it became a tale of a dragon slayer becoming an evil dragon as their government implemented authoritarian centralization policies, treating opposition brutally with executions and dividing into factions that fought each other. They attempted to assimilate all ethnicities within the empire under Turkish language and culture, while persecuting non-Muslims and others. In 1915, they even carried out a large-scale deportation and massacre of Armenians in the name of national security, resulting in up to 1 million deaths known as the Armenian Genocide. For this Ottoman government, its most fatal mistake was joining World War I on Germany's side, leading to defeat and occupation by Allied forces, facing partition by Western powers and humiliation under British puppet Sultan Mehmed V. This prompted Mustafa Kemal to refuse recognition of treaties with the West and the Sultan, rallying a nationalist army for Turkey's independence war against foreign division. Victory was achieved, and on the 1st of November 1922, the Sultanate officially ended as the last Sultan left Turkey aboard a British ship on the 17th of November. The Ottoman Empire vanished from world maps, replaced by a secular republic without sultans or caliphs, today's Republic of Turkey. The decline of the Ottoman Empire wasn't simply due to backwardness leading to defeat. It was more like an old man clinging stubbornly to tradition yet sensing impending crisis, wavering between reform and conservatism until overwhelmed by modernity's storm. As the last giant among traditional empires, its failure in completing modernization remains a classic case study. So only after breaking can there be rebirth.